said hello. This is Bobby Whitlock on Retrospectives with Big John Broughton on KC Radio 97.7 FM.
Just reading up on you, I discovered you were the first white artist signed to Stax Records. Is that right?
I am. That's all. My roots go back to rhythm and blues and early rock and roll. Little Richard and Ray Charles and then like Albert King and Sam and Dave. But I was the first white artist signed to Stax Hip label. They were going to do their pop thing, and it never quite came to light.
Just the same though, would you consider that your first, I guess, major break in music?
On the industry side, it would be, but my major break in music was when I went to California to be with Bonnie and Delaney to start that band. But the Stax thing, their idea of doing what they wanted me to do and my idea of what I wanted to do was two completely different things. Their idea of pop then was like Herman's and Hermits.
Yeah.
And they weren't qualified to do pop on that level. And they were strictly R&B, rhythm and blues, and soul music, and that's what I was into. And they tried to steer me a direction that I wasn't going to be in, And so consequently, I left and went to California to do the Bonnie and Delaney thing.
Now, you're pretty much considered a multi-instrumentalist. What was your first instrument of choice starting out? Sorry?
My first instrument was drums.
Oh, was it?
I played drums all through school.
Mm-hmm.
And I never did get to play in a band, but because everybody wanted, because I could play guitar, keyboards, and harmonica, and all that, and everyone wanted me to be a stand out front and sing, and so I did that, and then I stood out front and sang, played chromatic harp, and all the time I was a drummer, but here we had Al Jackson and Howard Grimes in Memphis, so that took care of the drumming situation. And then I got with Delaney and them, and we had Jim Keltner and Jim Gordon, so that was that. And all throughout my whole career, we've always had great drummers, and so they needed my thing was my forte is singing and Hammond B3, but drums were my first instrument. And I've only just picked them back up in the last few years.
Now, I was wanting to get the impression of you back in those days as someone that was, I guess, a great team player rather than someone that went out and sought the limelight as such. Would that be a fair comment?
Pretty close, yeah. Pretty fair assessment. Like I was the first original with the Bonnie and Delaney thing. I'm the last to leave. So when I got in, I was there for the long haul. Mm-hmm. And as a matter of fact, last night we went to see Neil Diamond and saw Ronnie Tutt was playing drums with Neil, and he was a drummer, the last drummer in the band before I left. But yes, a team player would be a fair assessment. Band member. We were all, and like in the Dominoes, we were all equals in that.
Yeah. I guess it'd be impossible to talk to you and not bring up the Layla recording sessions. Could you feel during the recordings that you were creating something that was going to stand the test of time as it has?
No. We all we were doing was putting down the songs and getting the record done so we could go play. We weren't there to record a great record. We didn't go in with these songs like Eric. I wrote the lyrics and everything to keep on growing while the session was on, and but we didn't go there saying, well, this is going to be like the quintessential record, or it's going to be the epitome of Eric's career, which it did turn out to be. Mm-hmm. But we didn't go in there with that in mind. We knew we had done something. We knew that we had done something that was pretty monumental, but we didn't know the degree, because I mean we couldn't get airplay. It wasn't on the radio. You know, no one wanted to know about it. We were strictly ahead of our time for sure, but no one wanted to know about it.
Yeah, it was by no means an instant success, was it?
No, it was about a year and a half before it got any airplay, and the band had been broken up, and of course, you know, Duane Allman was dead by then, and everybody had broken up, and Eric was well into doing what he was doing, and I had elected to come back to America and just, you know, play a bunch of joints as opposed to sitting around waiting on somebody to get better.
Sure. Did you go into the Dominoes as a one-album project, or was it originally meant to be an ongoing thing?
It was meant to be an ongoing thing, and the way it was set up was that we could do what we did. You know, we could record and play as the group, but we would be able to do our solo efforts as well, and then come back and do the Dominoes. So the Dominoes was going to be like just a mainstay, and would be able to, you know, venture out from that. But as it turns out, that's what happened. But we never did drift back into doing the Domino thing. And now Jim Gordon is in jail for the rest of his life. Carl Radle is dead, and Duane Allman was a hired gun. You know, so I mean, he was never really like a band member. He came and he played. Actually, it was only on half the record.
Now, I was surprised to read somewhere that you didn't personally like the piano segment that ends the Layla track. Is that right?
That's right. I still don't.
Still don't?
No, it had nothing to do with the song. You notice when Eric re-recorded it, he certainly didn't put a piano part in it, but it had nothing to do with the song. And Jim Gordon, actually, that was written with Rita Coolidge, and it was an idea that Jim Gordon got from a horn player named Jim Horn. And Rita Coolidge wrote a song. That was a song that was written in 1968, if I'm not mistaken. It may be 69. She recorded it. It's called Time. And but she and Jim Gordon actually brought me up to their house one time, trying to get me to pitch in and help them finish that song. It was a song unto itself, and I wanted no part of it. And when we did the album, he was Jim had his problem was that he didn't write anything and he didn't sing, and he wanted to be a songwriter, singer, and he was a drummer, and he was not capable of writing songs that had any substance, but he had this melody of this piano thing, and he played that, and pretty much it was insistent that we record it, and then it was tagged on to the song Layla. And with the original version of Layla, the 45, it has no piano part on it. We were so adamant about it that it was not to be on there. And so we had, in those days, you would do a single would be one thing, and then you could have something else on the album. And so we had the extended version on the album, and some guy who was a college DJ elected to start playing the whole thing. And, well, the rest of it's like rock and roll history. You know, it caught on, and it was like a national anthem after that.
Sure is. In hindsight...
And I want to say also the most famous rock 7 notes that came from an Albert King song called "In the Middle of the Night," a blues. So Eric actually took the an Albert King blues lick that Duane Allman brought to the session, and they speeded the lick up and used it for the song. And Albert never got credit for it either. But those you check out your Albert King stuff. That very lick came from Albert King. I saw him on a airplane coming from Atlanta about it was a couple of months before he passed, and I told him, I said, "Hey Albert," I said, I was flying from Atlanta to Memphis, and I told him, I said, Eric Clapton wrote in Rolling Stone magazine that he got those licks, those 7 licks from you in the middle of the night, or still in the night, and he said, in the middle of the night it is. And I said, you probably got a whole bunch of money coming to you. He said, I don't need that boy's money. He can have those licks. He said, I got plenty of them.
That's a nice story. In hindsight, though, has there been a little bit of an annoyance to you that a lot of the general public look at the Layla album as a Clapton and Norman project, and that your contribution has not been recognised as much as it should?
Well, it's been one of those things like people who have to say, "Oh yeah, you did." I've actually had people come up to me and say, "You wrote the chorus to Bell Bottom Blues, didn't you?" I said, "I sure did," even though it wasn't credited. I mean, there are people who are so into it and intuitive that they know, and so it's one of those things. I've lived long enough to I know what part I played in. I know what role, and the people who know, and the people who want to. Eric was the star of the show. All right, during his career, he was the guy, and it is Eric Clapton. But that particular point in time, it was a band, and he wanted us to get into the backdrop, and he did. And hey, man, I stepped up and did what I did, and I'm as much my role in that is as important as any one of them, Eric or Dwayne's. And we were doing pretty good in the studio before Dwayne came along. I'm sure that the album would have been a great album, but I have one thing to say about Duane Allman, and I really loved Duane Allman, and I thought that he was a great slide player, but him dying, him getting killed on that motorcycle wreck, had that not happened, he would be just another guitar player today. Okay. And the Allman Brothers would have been just another jam band. I mean, as sad as it sounds, him having that crash and losing his life actually brought everything into the limelight. His own band, Derek and the Dominoes, his great effort that he had done with us. So, everyone's role was what it was, and it'll be that way. It'll stay that way. It can't be emulated. People can play the same licks, but I don't know. Pretty much, I got sidetracked. Maybe
no, that's fine.
I hope that answered your question.
No, you certainly did. I've interviewed a few people over the years who were involved on George Harrison's All Things Must Pass album, and they all talk of those sessions as one of the most beautiful experiences in music that they've had. Was it that special for you too?
It was. It was an incredible experience, and an experience is what it was. I was just fresh out of the Bonnie and Delaney thing, and had an understanding of how horn sections worked and how background parts worked, and the likes of that. And so George allowed, and of course Jim Gordon and Carl and I had been playing together for several years before. So, I mean, we were real tight. And so George allowed us our freedom to do what, and have the input on that as we wanted. Like arranging horn parts and vocal parts and playing this. I played like tubular bells on the album and a lot of things that nobody really knew, who did what, because it's kind of lumped together. Keyboards, Billy Preston, Gary Brooker, and Bobby Whitlock, percussion, Jim Gordon, Alan White, boom, but there's a lot of things went down on that session. It was an incredible, the idea of recording everything, that's where I got the idea of letting the tape run from George's session, and that's what we did with the Domino session. That's why we have all those jams, alternate mixes, outtakes, and all that. But that's a spin-off from George's idea, just let the tape roll. But they had, so that's why we had, hence the Apple Jam. But they should have had a tape rolling and a video rolling in the control room, because that was incredible. Phil Spector was he was on the mark, when it came to producing. It was an incredible, eye-opening experience watching him work.
Now, I think I read somewhere that you were an uncredited player on the Rolling Stones' Exile on Main Street. Is that right?
That's true.
Yeah. What did you play on there?
I played electric piano on "Don't Want to Talk About Jesus, Just Want to See His Face," and then another song. But that went on. Well, the reason that was because those were the heavy drug days, and it took them forever to do anything. Keith was doing a lot of drugs, and it was pretty wild what was going on. And a solo might take from 8 o'clock till 4 o'clock in the morning, and much less the album getting finished. And it took forever with that album. And by the time they got finished with it, Jimmy Miller had forgotten who was in on there. I would imagine there are other people who was on that record that didn't get credited as well, because it took so long. He became. I signed a deal with his production company, and he produced one of my first solo efforts. Actually, it was my second album, and we talked about that. I said, "Well, how you didn't give me credit on or pay me for Exile on Main Street?" He went, "Oh man, I completely forgot." I said, "Well, it was too late then. It's already out." That's okay.
Now, aside from some of the moments we've already talked about, what would be some of your other proudest moments in music?
Playing on the stage in Geneva with Kimmy.
I thought you might say that.
I've got to say that, and it's not just because she's here, but the crowning moment of my whole career, and that includes the Fillmore East, was playing with Kim on stage. There's nowhere I'd rather be than sitting up there playing just she and I with acoustic guitars and her saxophone, my piano, by ourselves with no band, and it was absolutely the most incredible experience of my life. Those people were, even though they didn't understand what we were saying, they got the message, and they were a part of it. That was an experience. Now that, to me, was an incredible experience.
Yeah. Let's bring Kim into the picture now. Sorry to leave you hanging on there for so long, Kim.
That's quite all right.
Tell us about your background in music, and where did you get that voice?
Where did I get it? I'm not really sure where I got it. I've been working on it for a long time, though. Yeah. My background, I've just been playing for a long, long time. I started playing when I was in London, and I finished school there, and it's just been the thing that I've been doing all my life. I really don't. The biggest thing I've ever done really is what I'm doing with Bobby now.
Yeah, sure.
I just feel like I've been around for quite some time.
Kim's incredible in the studio, and she's a great producer, engineer, incredible.
So a real jack of all trades.
Yeah.
Yes, I've just been evolving all these years.
So how did the two of you team up? Or where did you first meet?
I'll let Bobby tell you that.
Okay. Well, we met. Kim used to be married to Delaney.
Okay, yep, that's right.
13 years. She was married to him, all right? So you get the picture.
Yep.
Yes, we get the picture. Yes, we see. That's when I fell for the leader of the pack. She and I have been friends for a long time. We've been together now for 5 years, and I had left my situation, and she left her situation. We changed. She changed, and nobody there did. I changed, and nobody in my people who in my world changed, and so we grew. Like, we didn't leave with each other. We left together, but not. We didn't run off with each other. Mm-hmm. We just we happened to be pushed together, and it was. I call it a divine intervention. Was what put Kimmy and me together. Everybody thought that she and I had an adulterous affair, but nothing could have been further from the truth. So we just stood back and let everybody say what they wanted to say, and both factions pushed us together, and we've been together ever since, and wild horses couldn't tear us apart.
It's a very long story.
It's a very long story, but that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Yeah, you've condensed it beautifully. You've trimmed it down to a nice tale there.
Yeah, it's a beautiful story.
And we didn't have plans on singing and playing together or anything. Matter of fact, I had a place and she had another place, and it just worked out that we fell in love, and here we are.
We did want to work together. Bobby had sent me his album, It's About Time, and there's a song on there called Hi, I Knew, and I was always in the studio all the time working, and I decided this is a kooky idea, but I put my voice on it because it sounded like it needed another voice.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like a duet. And I sent it to him, and I thought, he's just going to think I'm absolutely out of my mind.
Brilliant.
He's put out this record, now I'm putting my voice on it. So, and it was crazy, but I sent it back to him, and he loved it. And it was like we needed to sing together. And we both have, like, the same voice. It's quite extraordinary how we work together. And so that was, like, the very first thing that we did sort of together. And then
natural. It's been a natural. We don't force anything to happen. Like we didn't force ourselves to be together. We didn't force ourselves to start singing and playing together. It's just one of those things that happened, and we let everything, like each day that comes around, is what it's going to be, and it's going to unfold for us. And that's how we are with our performances as well.
Now, also, you've got your own record label happening, the Domino label?
Yes.
What have you found to be some of the advantages and pitfalls of running your own label?
Well, the advantages of it are you don't have to go to anybody to get a label deal.
True.
And the pitfalls is that everybody wants to be on your label, especially if it's called the Domino label and you're the only Domino. And I don't want to be a record executive. However that comes along with it. We have major distribution. Now we're going to have a major label pick our label up and take the label itself. So it was pretty much a calling card for us more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds good.
So you've got a distribution deal happening there with a major label.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes. And so we're just taking it step at a time, and I'm not looking to sign a bunch of acts to the label or anything, but it's like Eric's got Duck Records or something, and then everybody seems to have their own little label, and it brought attention to Kimmy and I.
What would be some of the things as a record label owner that you're determined not to do that you've seen other record companies do in the past?
Screw the artist. That would be it.
I like it. That's good. What are the future plans for the label?
Don't know. It's like everything else. We're just letting it happen. If it evolves into something to where we can be a benefit to another artist, but actually to the public. If I can, great. Without having to don that hat, put on that coat. That's great, but until then, it'll be just a medium for outlet for Kimmy and myself.
Yeah, we're really too busy in the studio and playing and that sort of thing.
We've got so much on our plate you wouldn't believe.
And Bobby's got Universal's just confirmed with us that they're putting out a double CD set on all of his solo records. So.
Finally! Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, box set early this new year. It's going to be 4 CD box set.
Hopefully, we'll be doing more of Bobby's songs.
Yeah,
they're so beautiful. I mean, the first album that he did was really all the Dominoes. That was like the last thing that they all did together.
Yeah.
Was his first solo CD.
That's been a long time coming, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has.
Yeah, that'll be great. A lot of people will be looking forward to replacing their scratchy old vinyl there.
Oh, you wouldn't believe it, how many emails we get from people asking us, to work something out so they can get his solo CD. So now we're really happy that that's happening.
So that was really nice for us when we were in Geneva. The day before we left, we got to look on the computer and had a letter from Bill Levison, who's the producer and produces all the box sets and stuff. Universal did the 20th anniversary Layla thing and all the Crossroads box sets, and we had a letter from him, and he said it's confirmed that they're going to do it. And so that was a nice surprise,
Oh, that's great news.
The close of this wonderful, wonderful venue that we have done for the Japanese people. And then to have that happen for this new year, how exciting, And then Kim and I have a CD that we're finishing off. We only have about 2 things to finish it, and it's going to be released in the new year as well on the Domino label. And it's called Imprisoned Splendor, and it's pretty awesome. We have Kelvin Holly, who's Little Richard's guitar player, is working with us on it, and a guy named N.C. Thurman, who's another keyboard player.
That's it.
and that's it. And it's Kimmy and me. She plays bass. I'm playing drums. She plays flute, saxophone. I play guitar, rhythm and organ and the likes. And it's just awesome.
You did actually send me down some rough demos. Off the air. Sounds fantastic. Really looking forward to the finished product there. I have a live CD of yours that you both did not too long ago. Is that a pretty typical example of your show?
Pretty typical, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we've come a long way since then. That was actually our second show together.
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, that was their second performance. Literally, the first one was the Bottom Line in New York, and then that show there, which was like a week later or something. And it was the second time we'd ever performed together.
Now, I'm used to playing my horn, and having a band and all that business, and Bobby's like, you're going to have to just get out on stage and play the guitar. So it's just the two of us, and it was pretty... the first time I've really been nervous, on stage. Here I am sitting there playing the guitar, and that had been something I just did at home. But like I said, we've come a long way. I have come a long way since that second show. So.
We didn't know what to expect. We didn't have a clue. We were living down in the heart of the South and looking to get out. I've been leaving the South all my life, it seems, but I went down to, it was just after George had passed, and I went to the record store to get the new release of All Things Must Pass that I had a copy and it had got misplaced, so I never really looked at it or anything or heard it. And I went down to buy it, and I saw the Domino box set. It was like $76, and I went, man, I'm not buying that. I'm not going to spend $76 on something that's mine anyway. It just didn't seem right, And so I didn't spend the money. And I came home and I said, there's not but one song or two songs on there that anybody's ever heard anyway. And that's when I had this light bulb moment, like where you go, wow. And I told Kimmy, I said, we're going to go out and perform all the songs that nobody's ever heard off the Layla album. And so we called a couple of people to see if we could get some band together. Nobody wanted to play, all right? Nobody wanted to go out and do anything. And so I said, well, we'll just do it acoustically. And that even made it that much better. I called Alan Pepper, who owned the Bottom Line forever and ever in New York. And it's since been closed down over this past year, but a very famous venue in New York City. And I told him what I had on my mind. And he said, wow, would you open for somebody? I said, I don't mind. I said, that whole who's headlining, that's one of those things. It doesn't matter who's on top of the bill, it's whose show it is who's walking away with the thing, And so he got a date together for us, and I told him what I wanted to do, like sing all the songs that nobody's ever heard off the Layla album. And he just thought it was a great idea, and sure enough, the first night, Van Toppler with MTV, and a bunch of people were there. The place was full. And everybody just went crazy over the songs. And then the night of the Whitney Chapel, the second performance, people, we didn't know what to think. People had been standing out in the cold for 2.5 hours waiting on us. And there was like 5 bands before us at this Gothic chapel at this Centenary College, and we didn't have a clue what to think. And we had driven up from the south and with our little dog Eddie, and got up there, and those people were singing along. They knew every word to all the songs. They said, we've been waiting 30 years to hear these songs. It was pretty incredible, and it was like 4 standing ovations, and they finally had to turn the lights on in the place.
The response was ridiculous.
And it's been that way everywhere we play. Everybody just is crazy about Kim and myself.
I mean, that's the reason why we put that particular show on CD and put it out, because it was the response from the people for the first time that had really heard those songs in so many years. And we literally just got in our car and just started driving north, and we were doing live radio shows along the way. And then we decided to move to New Jersey, and we did, I don't know how many hours of
over 100 hours of live radio.
And we did Sirius Radio, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and
WABI.
Yeah, we played on Wall Street.
It was pretty wild, everywhere that I called. And actually, we made only one call, and that was to Alan Pepper. All the calls, like to the Kennedy Center, we opened up the Kennedy Center year before last, the Millennium Stage. We had the first time and only time anyone's ever had a 1-hour performance, and we're in the archives there, and you can dial that up and see that show. We're in there with all the dead presidents. We are, and probably the only alive people that's in the archives, but I would think. No, there are probably some others, but in fact, the only call we made was to Alan Pepper. All the other calls have come to us. We haven't had to go out and try to drum up business. It seems like it's one of those things, like you put the pebble out into the still pond, and the ripples just have a far-reaching effect. They go one little rock can reach all the way to the outer edges of everything.
But it's very true, as you say, that hearing those songs live would mean a lot to a lot of people, because Eric doesn't usually touch them apart from Layla itself.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah.
He's had so many hit records that for him to do, it would be like Neil Diamond last night doing an hour-and-a-half show of his hits, and never even didn't even scratch the surface. Well, Eric's had a bunch of hit records.
Yeah.
And in order to do Tell the Truth and What Has Love Got to Be, so it's pretty much you need the package deal. And I was the other half of the Dominoes, so it was really, it was Derek and the Domino. It'd be like Eric and me. We wrote it, we sang it, we put the band together. I mean, as far as that whole scenario, that could be put back together with no problem. Just get another drummer and another bass player, and you got the Dominoes.
How does the songwriting procedure work for the two of you? Have you settled into a pattern there?
Kimmy and me?
No
yeah.
pattern.
No.
We'll sometimes just start something and it sounds good, and we'll carry on with it. And Bobby is so prolific. It's almost difficult to get in on anything because he writes so dang fast. Like the song's done before you know it. So it's like,
well, we just let them happen.
Jump in there now before it's too late. But yeah, they do just pretty much happen. And sometimes we're inspired by people we know. Like in the middle of the night is a story of a friend of ours whose son was in a coma and passed away, and so that song happened very quickly because we were wrapped up in all of that and his life and everything, and so. But
it's all a matter of what might be happening at the moment. When we were in Geneva, we turned on Eurovision, and there's a young boy. I would say he's probably every bit of 11 and can really sing. And then this older woman, and they're doing a duet, and then there's a lot of that going on. And the idea just hit me about this young boy. I remember having a fantasy and being enamored with a woman when I was a young boy, an older woman, and I was just had a crush on this woman, and it was like, wait on me, I'm going to be old enough soon if you can just wait on me. So, but the whole picture of this just came to me. It's real clear, I'll give you the love you need if you'll just wait on me. Wait on me to grow up. I'll be old enough one of these days. Well, and so all of the ideas start flowing, and then Kimmy's good. I said, get your pen and paper and jot them down because they're falling out of my head.
I couldn't keep up on that one. But
that's a work in progress right now, as a matter of fact. Well, so that gives you an idea of how that happened.
The new record that we're working on, every single song on that was the experience that we were going through in Alabama, and the songs were just pouring out of us. I mean, it was because there was a lot going on, and
we took a relatively bad experience, and yes,
songs about it.
Yeah, you can make a silk purse out of a sow's ear.
Yeah, of course.
So every single one of those songs is all true stories about what was going on with us at the time.
Yeah,
and just
that's going to
be
on
songs, best days of our lives, and
what are we going to do?
What are we going to do?
The dice of God. There ain't no other baby like that gal sitting across the room from me now.
Yeah, so I mean, they do. They just come out, and hopefully, people will like them as much as we do.
Yeah.
You never know. You just never know.
Bobby, I've got to say, from what I've heard of the recent material, you're singing better than ever. Are you a believer in that a good singing voice gets better with age, like a good wine?
Well, my time has come, and that's in more ways than one. I was talking to Ronnie Tutt about this very thing last night, and he said, "I bet you're singing your butt off." Now, I said, "I am, as a matter of fact. I'm singing the way I've always wanted to sing. I don't have to sing any hot licks, or do any fancy vocal acrobatics or anything like that." And I've come into my own. I've matured, and I've got what I lacked when I was a young man during the Domino era was, and before that was experience.
He was just a baby.
And so,
Yeah.
in fact, I was always the youngest in the whole thing.
I mean, imagine recording Layla. What were you, 21 years old?
I just turned 21.
I mean, it's incredible to think about.
It's hard to comprehend, isn't it?
Yes, and then, Bobby's solo albums, he was still a young man, and he had all of this, laid out before him. You could use all of these great players, and so he was pretty much experimenting at the time with his voice, didn't really know what to do.
He didn't know what to do,
but I had no direction. So
I could do anything I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I just called George and Eric and everybody and asked them. I asked everyone that I'd ever played with, if they wanted to be on my record, and they did. And so here I'm sitting in this room with Eric Clapton and George Harrison and Klaus Voormann and Jim Gordon and Bobby Keys and Jim Price. It was pretty awesome. And not have an idea, ran out of ideas. I didn't have a song, so we made up a song on the spot and did stuff like that. And so that happens, with Keep On Growing. I was going to say this earlier. With the Dominoes, we were recording. Keep On Growing used to be a jam that we did. We did, like, the Airport Shuffle. Dominoes opened up a show. When we did our show, we opened up with a jam, and then I'd do, like, Stormy Monday Blues and stuff like that, and, 634, Midnight Hour. And, when we did the Layla album, we recorded "Keep On Growing," and it was like 9 million guitars on this song, and it was great. I mean, the track was brilliant, but they were going to can it because it wasn't a song. It didn't really lend itself to the rest of the record at that point in time. And so I said, "Well, just give me a minute." And so I said, "Give me 20 of them." And I said, I took a pen and paper and went out into the lobby of Criteria Studios and sat there and wrote all the lyrics and the melody to Keep On Growing. Went back in, and Eric said, "Why don't you just sing it?" And I said, "Okay." So I tried to sing it by myself and to the track, and it wasn't on with me just doing it by myself. And I said, "Let's do this like we do everything else." So my approach to the way I did things with the Dominoes was we did it like Sam and Dave. He would do a verse, I would do a verse, we'd do one together. He'd do a verse, I would do one, we'd do one together. And so that's what we did with Keep On Growing, and it worked out brilliant. So we only sang it one time. The band never played after that. We never did it on stage or anything. So that was how that worked out. And
just to finish up, what you say you got busy times ahead of you. What are your upcoming plans?
Japan. We're currently working on a tour of Japan.
Yeah, they're working very, very hard to put that together. So that looks like that's going to be happening.
And finishing up the record. Yes.
Yeah, finishing up Imprisoned Splendor, and hopefully everything will be. It's not impossible that Kimmy and I will have 6 or 7 with pieces of product in the first as many months of the new year that's coming up. And let's say if you say all 4 Bobby Whitlock, then there's my 5th one that we're going to put out. It had only been released. It's about time. It was released in 2000, but only in Europe. So that's going to be released in Prison Splendor and also the other assorted love songs. So Kimmy and I will have 7 pieces of product on the market in the first half of the new year. So that's pretty amazing achievement. If it's an achievement, like Levon said, you just have to live long enough, I guess.
That's fantastic. A lot to look forward to. Hey, listen, fantastic to catch up with you both. It really is. And to speak...
It's taken such time, such a back and forth. Sorry about that.
It was well worth waiting for. Indeed. To speak to you both, a very exciting time for you.
All right, and we'll be in Australia sooner than later.
Well, Japan is not too far from here. You could just go that little bit further and.
That would be great.
You just swing down and under.
Yeah. You can please book me in for your first radio stop when you get here. We'd love to get you in the studio and play live for us.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for your time, both of you.
Okay, bye-bye.
All the best. Bye-bye.